Woo, today's going to be a super special show, Anthony.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody, Glenn Hausman here. Anthony Melchior will be back in just 1 second. Don't you worry about that. Thank you so much for joining us every single day at No Vacancy Live, 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Pacific Time. I don't know, 4 a.m. Hawaii time. Australia time. I don't know what time it is there. I'm just making stuff up. Either way, thank you so much for joining us here today. Now, remember, guys, 2020, you suffered. If you're a hotel owner, you know what I'm talking about over there. And that's why it's time to reach out to the good folks over at Bright Support to help lower your property tax bill. That's right. Falling revenues might make it possible for you to get a lower tax assessment. But all you got to do is make the first call. Book your free 30-minute conversation with Bright Support at brightsupport.net/hotels or call them at 833-411-2233. Got me reminding about those old Apex Tech commercials that we used to do in the 70s here in New York. Anyone remember those commercials? I don't know about you, but you have to make the first step. That's what that guy used to say. So make sure you call Bright Support. Also, Ecotech, you know how great those guys are. We got the Ecotech basket right here. Perfect for conventions, perfect for your hotel, absolutely perfect. And now they're being carried on Amazon.com. And sure, you could go get it at Amazon.com, but don't do that. Go directly to them at eco-techwaste.com. That's eco-techwaste.com in order to learn how to do things the right way and save money, help the environment at the same time, because you know you're going to save labor, cleaning supplies, all of that kind of good stuff. All right, enough of that. Anthony will be back in just 1 second, but I want to thank all of you guys for being here today. Hey, Michael. Hey, Gordon. It was great to connect with you, Gordon, on Facebook. And hello, Newly Grew. Good evening to you, wherever you might be in the country. All right. So speaking about being all over the world, our guest today is Ambassador Gordon Sondland. You might know him as an ambassador to the European Union, but you probably know him more as the founder of Provenance Hotels. So let's welcome to the show, Mr. Sondland, or Ambassador Sondland. How cool?
No, it's just Gordon. Hey, Glenn, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing? All right.
Doing great, thanks.
Anthony will be back in just 1 second. We're not sure what happened. All right. I think we both know what happened, but we can't really break that secret right here on the air, can we? Thank you so much for being here. So obviously I'm at the old number 77 hotel, or not really today, in New Orleans, Gordon. And reminds me of, I do a show on Friday nights called Friday Night Audit. And I wore a t-shirt from The Great Outdoors, where I don't know if you remember that movie, but he had to eat the old 96er, the big giant steak. So I've been thinking about that all day. What an incredible hotel you have there in New Orleans.
Thank you. We have a lot of pride in that property. We converted an old warehouse that's near the warehouse district, actually, on Chapatoulas and Poydras. We recruited a wonderful chef from Miami by the name of Nina Compton, whose father actually, talking about politics, was the first prime minister of St. Lucia. And Nina is a James Beard winner, and she opened a restaurant called Compère Le Pan, and it's until COVID, it was just crushing it. And she'll be back, trust me.
Yeah, and of course, COVID crushed a lot of us. We're going to talk a little bit about what your company has gone through and where you are headed to. But I can't help but ask you, what was that experience like? You know, the positive sides of it, of being called on to serve your country in such a unique and special way. What an honor.
You know, it is the job of a lifetime. And when I speak with others who have held the position of United States ambassadors, many of whom have had incredibly exciting jobs in their private life, they say to a person, this is the most interesting, unusual, and exciting job anyone could ever wish for. And I would, the 2 years that I put in, I'd never take those back. It was unbelievable to serve your country, and and to do it in a very meaningful way. So thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, it's just so cool. So what is that experience like, practically speaking? What does a day look like to do that? Because I picture an ambassadorship as somebody who drinks tea with their pinkies out and has conversations with foreign dignitaries. But do you go to a lot of those parties, or is it more just like trying to put America's interests first, kind of off the record to begin with? How does that work?
Well, I was in a very unusual place. The United States mission to the European Union is almost like a mini White House.
Yeah.
I had pretty much every cabinet agency represented there, from the Agriculture Department to the Department of Defense to the intelligence community. And all of the people that were based there worked for me. They did not work for their cabinet secretary in Washington. Because as the ambassador, you're the highest ranking US person, in this case, not in the country, but in the mission. And, you know, the idea is we were a working mission. We didn't give a lot of parties. We didn't kiss a lot of babies and cut a lot of ribbons. There was a little bit of that, but it was not a ceremonial post. It was a policy post, a working post. It was 24/7. We had about 1,000 people there, and it was very, very meaningful. And what you realize is, and again, this is not a partisan comment, whether you're working for a Democrat president or a Republican president, it doesn't matter. When you turn the wheel, the ship turns. You have an incredible amount of power and authority. And once you realize that, you have to be very judicious about how you use it.
I'll tell you about someone who has a lot of power and authority, Anthony Melchiori, rejoining us right now. But before we move on, I think you'd be curious to know, with your hospitality background, someone who's developed and owned hotels, how did you apply the knowledge of the hospitality industry to what you were able to achieve overseas?
Well, the first and probably the least important, but the most optical, is that the State Department never had a budget for anything when it came to entertaining. And so, you know, as an innkeeper, as a hotelier, I could not serve distinguished guests chips and dip. I just couldn't do it. It wasn't in me.
Right.
So, you know, if we wanted to have a lavish spread, whether it was, you know, chilled lobster or great champagne in order to, represent the United States as it should be represented, it came out of my own pocket and I paid for it.
And were you allowed to do that?
You're not only allowed to do it, you're expected to do it.
Oh.
And you know, being an ambassador is one of the most expensive jobs you'll ever have. Whatever salary you earn and whatever benefits you get, you put in an exponential amount back into the job if you're really going to do the job right. And, you know, it's difficult, obviously, for career folks to do that because they don't have the resources, but the political appointees are expected to do it, and almost to a person they do it.
So give me an example of one moment where you did something that everyone didn't expect, but you came out of your own pocket and it was something that was like, everybody was like, wow, that's impressive. Any one thing that stands out?
Well, I gave a 4th of July party, which are ubiquitous in every mission in the world. You give an Independence Day party based on your own country's Independence Day or National Day. You go to these events all year long. Some of them are very boring. Some of them are wonderful. But I had an agenda. I wanted to entertain at the highest possible levels in the EU. I wanted the president of the European Commission there. I wanted the equivalent of the US Secretary of State for Europe, who at the time was a woman named Federica Mogherini. Her title is HRVP. I wanted her there. And these people never attend these events. So I called upon an old friend in LA, Jay Leno, to come out and entertain. He was a big draw. He came and he did an amazing job. But what we wound up doing was we had a breakout dinner after the big event. We had about 1,000, 1,500 people at the big event. We had a breakout dinner with multiple country leaders that came to this event. And the interaction and the chemistry was absolutely amazing. And the amount of deals that got done over in the corner that we were able to facilitate that helped the United States. The emails that I got from senior officials, both present and past, told me that we had really done something special. And I was very, very proud of that. And a lot of those resources, we raised some money from sponsors, but we also had to pay for a bunch of it ourselves.
A lot of this sounds like a hotel conference.
Exactly.
Deals in water, all that kind of stuff.
It was Alice on steroids.
That's a major financial conference that's typically held in January, but because of the current situation, it's going to be held over the summer. So what did the ambassadorship teach you about hospitality that now you're able to bring back to Provenance Hotels?
Well, I think the biggest thing that it taught me is that it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter what your position is. Everyone's a human being. And, once you operate at a level and you are talking to, it sounds a little bit sort of braggadocio, or it sounds even a little bit like hubris, but it's really part of the job. You're talking to presidents and prime ministers and foreign ministers all day long. One after another. It's part of your job. It's part of what you do. So all of a sudden, as it goes on and on and on over a period of months and years, it becomes less impressive and less important. And you realize that you're really dealing with another human being. You're not dealing with someone at a lofty level, because they view you, frankly, at a lofty level, being the representative of the United States of America. No matter how much our country seems to be trashed around the globe, people still have extraordinary respect for the United States.
That's great.
And I find that in traveling, in the last 5 years, I've traveled a lot in Europe and around the country, around the world. And I always ask, it's like, what do you think of the political climate in America? And they're like, we love America. It's like they don't have an opinion, or at least the people I spoke to, about the person who's in the White House. It's more about, I love America. America will get through this. America will change in 4 years. And I may or may not like the person, but what America represents is what I love. And I've heard that from Ireland, Italy, Vietnam, everywhere. And so you're right. I mean, it's when you're an ambassador for America, it's a very powerful position. So let me ask you another question. Being an entrepreneur, being a hotel person, being a person that's kind of used to getting his way, being a person that's in your position, when you're in as an ambassador and you're dealing with the governmental agencies, how quick did you say to yourself, oh boy, was it like seconds, or did it take you a week to say, wow, there's a lot of bureaucracy?
That is the reaction. And it's frustrating. But in my case, because of the mission that I led, I had extraordinary access to the leadership of our government, which some ambassadors have and some ambassadors don't. And the way I was able, in my case, and again, every mission and every ambassador is different, I dealt at a very, very high level every day. And I made it clear that our mission was a policy-driven mission. We were there to advance the policy of the U.S. government. So my direct superior was the Secretary of State, even though on paper he wasn't my superior. I had multiple layers beneath him that I theoretically needed to report to, but I just didn't. I just would not do it. I felt I had limited time to accomplish our policy goals. So I dealt directly with the National Security Advisor, with the Secretary, with the President, with the Vice President, and with other cabinet officials. And I found that made my job a lot more efficient, because I could get an answer in minutes and hours, not in weeks and months.
Yeah. And that, the reason I asked you that question is because as a fellow entrepreneur and a person that likes to get stuff done quickly, I don't need to be the guy making the decision, but I just need to be near the guy who's got to make the final decision. I can't. One of the reasons when people say, well, you got promoted very young as general manager, and it was simple. I just didn't want to work for a vice president that had asked 3 people what the decision was. I wanted to work for the guy.
That's exactly right. And very often I would wind up getting to a point where there was a policy issue to be decided, and I would literally call either the president or the secretary and say, look, we have an opportunity to do something here. You're running the show. Do you want to go A or B? Here's what happens if you go A. Here's what happens if you go B. I need a decision now. And
And you didn't upset anybody by doing that.
I upset everybody by doing that.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Ask me if I cared.
No, of course you did.
Was there ever a moment that you cared? Because we were talking before air about it, the thick skin that you have. Did you ever worry about that sort of stuff, or just keep your eyes on the prize for what you thought that would be?
I kept my eyes on the prize because, there is again, in a completely nonpartisan way, this really affects both sides.
Right.
There is a "we be here when you be gone" syndrome in any bureaucracy, where ambassadors, particularly political appointees, come and go, and the entrenched bureaucracy believes that they have the wisdom and they have the subject matter knowledge that they should set policy. And they're not elected to set policy. They're hired and paid to effectuate the policy of whoever the commander in chief is. And I would expect that now that President Biden is president, if he has a different view of how foreign policy should be conducted, the people conducting the foreign policy should salute smartly and say, "Yes, sir," or they should resign and go do something else. But it's not their job to countermand him.
On a completely different level, if you look at the brands and you look at, hotels, it's kind of similar in the sense of you're the owner of the building, and then a brand comes in and dictates the way policy should be done. Well, is there a little bit of flexibility? Like we were talking to Margaritaville yesterday. We're talking to Tamara, who's the chief marketing officer. At Margaritaville, there's a lot more flexibility as long as you keep in the spirit of Margaritaville. And, I think that's what happens with some of the brands is they become the boss, and they become the person that's setting the agenda. And then we're the owners. And I think you're seeing a lot of backlash during COVID of the owners just want more control.
Well, I think it depends on what you're signing up for. If you're signing up for a rigid brand and wonderful brands such as Four Seasons, for example, I'm not sure as a Four Seasons owner or as a Four Seasons customer, you want the owner of the building to have a lot of sway over that brand because they have very specific standards I expect. I'm a Four Seasons customer, and I don't want to find out that, the owner of the building doesn't like to run 24-hour laundry, because that's a brand standard that I come to expect. I want to be able to send my stuff out at night before I go to bed and get it back in the morning. And I'm paying for that privilege. On the other hand, Provenance, our brand, when we sign someone up, we have certain guest expectations, whether it's they want good Wi-Fi, they want a good bed, they want shower pressure, they want the right amenities in the room so they can do business. But that's where it sort of ends, and the owner and the collaboration begins, because each one of our projects is handcrafted. And part of it is to satisfy the market, and part of it is to satisfy the owner. Because really, our customer at the end of the day is not just the person walking in and paying $200 or $300 a night for a room, but it's the person who owns the building who pays us our fees.
So your company has been around since 2000. You're located in Portland, Oregon, and you develop and manage independent hotels. And we were just talking about branded hotels there, but I have a feeling you like the independent hotels because of the freedoms of it.
And that was my point. That's why you love doing what you're doing. You just said handcrafted. I love that.
That's great.
Handcrafted. The project I'm working on now, I put a lot of projects on hold because I'm holding it, and we're handcrafting this thing. We just had a meeting this morning at 8:30 about a whole bunch of things that you do when you're developing a building. And I was having so much fun. And because you're changing.
It is fun, isn't it?
Oh, it's the fun. Is there a better job? One of my project managers, Tom Downing, or my project manager, who actually developed the Four Seasons in New York City, he was like, "Who's better than us? How much fun are we having?" And this is a team that's working 18 hours a day, and I'm calling them up at 12 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and we're all laughing. We're just having because it's like being in kindergarten, right? You have a white paper, right? And you don't have 7 white papers, so you can't waste all the paper. You can't waste all the markers. You have 1 white paper, 1 marker, and you got to make it work, and then you got to make magic with that paper. And, so we're all, we're students of this business, and we understand our financial responsibility. But if you understand your financial responsibility, then you can have a lot of fun with the white paper and the one crayon you have, and then we can develop magic. And that, to me, there's nothing better.
That's what really brought me into this business. And I had a real pivotal decision to make back in 2000 when we started the Provenance brand. Do I want to just be an operator for Marriott and Hilton and Hyatt, all of which are great companies, or do I want to handcraft and, keep the difference in terms of the net operating income available, assuming I'm doing my market share? And fortunately, through some good times and bad, nothing like COVID, obviously, but prior to COVID, we were able to hold our own and deliver, stellar returns. Every one of our investors has long ago gotten their capital back in spades, including ourselves, because we're one of the largest investors in every one of our deals. We tend to like to put our money where our mouth is, and it's worked out well. COVID, of course, is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah,
right.
But you're still standing, so that tells me you have.
I'm sitting right now, but
right. But
and yes, I do have pants on. I know that that's now popular to do.
I got sweatpants on.
One of us on the show has pants.
but you're sitting, but the buildings are still standing. So because we've talked to a lot of operators, a lot of brands over the last year, and we've been very fortunate to have people at your level on our show. And again, thank you so much for coming on. We're always humbled by people that are busy that come on. But you had to be positioned correctly to survive COVID. You just had to be. So going into COVID, talk to me about that, and what were the toughest, most difficult times during the whole process?
Well, that one is an easy question to answer. The toughest thing was, we're a small company. We had about 1,200 employees, and we went from 1,200 employees to about 70 almost overnight. And that was the toughest thing, because a lot of those people have been with us for a long time. They're extraordinary teammates and extraordinary colleagues. But we realized when this fell off a cliff and we had to shut properties down, we have the resources, and fortunately had the resources, to carry the real estate through the tough times. What we did not have the resources to do, and I don't think anyone planned for any kind of contingency like this, was to not only carry the resources, but a payroll of 1,200 people for what turns out to be well over a year. It just wasn't there.
Right.
So we had to make that tough decision.
And in 2008, I think the difference between 2008 and COVID was a lot of that real estate had funny paper and just wasn't, financed correctly. And I think a lot of the institutions put restrictions in. So not all of it, but a lot of the hotels were financed a little bit more appropriately. And most hotels, at least the ones that I know of, are handling it. The hotels, like you're hearing in New York City, the big hotels, they were having problems before COVID. I mean, because of the union contracts and the taxes and everything that they had to deal with. So they were having problems before COVID. But it seems, and what I'm seeing is that a lot of the hotels that thought they may not make it are actually going to make it, because I think this summer in a lot of the markets you're going to see, again, not LA, not New York, maybe not Chicago, but a lot of the like the Long Beaches and the coastal and the mountains, it looks like it's going to make it. And it looks like they're going to have the best year in some markets ever.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see some green shoots again in Portland and Seattle. I never stopped traveling, by the way. In March of 20, when things shut down, I was still on an airplane every week. I took my COVID test regularly. I've been fine. I plan to get my vaccine here in the next few days. I'm finally up to bat for that.
Hey, congratulations.
But really, I look at our properties. We have a little resort in Palm Springs called the Villa Royale. It's crushing it right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's killing it.
It's absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
And, we're looking to acquire more properties like that, not just because it's a COVID fad, but because in the long term, I think these little drive-to resort properties will be resilient no matter what.
Well, listen to what Gordon is saying here, because you started a boutique hotel company in 2000. Boutique hotels were a very rare thing back then. Of course, you had independent hotels, et cetera, et cetera. What made you actually go in this direction to start this company? And if you could give us a little clarification on what you used to do prior to beginning this company. What took you to that decision?
Well, I actually bought my first hotel in 1985. But from 1985 until 2000, I used third-party managers. So I was more of a real estate investor than I was an operator and a brand. I had a wonderful mentor in a person you know well, Bill Kimpton. He and I met on a deal because we were bidding against one another. He had the deal tied up and in his pocket. Unbeknownst to me, I went and lobbed in a bid that was significantly higher than his. And the seller, who apparently didn't have many ethical scruples at the time, bailed out on him and came to me. And of course, he was very upset by that. I had never met him before. So I picked up the phone and called him, and we met. We had scheduled a 1-hour meeting. We wound up meeting for almost 4. He introduced me to his entire team, and one thing led to another. He and I went back hand in hand to the seller. We beat them up a little bit, and we got the deal at a price even lower than he had it tied up for. And we wound up doing that venture together. It was a small portfolio of hotels, one of which I still own today.
Cool. And
Bill was an extraordinary person, an extraordinary hotelier, and I learned a lot from him, and I really miss him every day.
Yeah, and he is like, when you look at Hilton and Marriott, he is for the boutique independent owner that the Mr. Marriott or Mr. Hilton, and not a lot of people know his name. I got introduced to Kimpton when I went out there I was going to run their hotels in New York, and I met Nikki. And I remember walking into that
former CEO Nikki Leandakis, right?
I remember walking into that office, and it just felt different. Everything felt different, and it just felt more transparent and more friendly. It felt like a hotel lobby. It felt like you're walking into someone's hotel. And so no wonder you're successful, because with your brain power and with your abilities, with his tutoring, I mean, it must have been an incredible class.
It was. He didn't even know he was teaching me, but he was.
That's pretty awesome.
But what's important is you're a person, you at that point you had means and you had success, but you went to school. And that's what people have to do in our business, especially in the boutique business. You got to go to school, because you're going to learn from Mr. Kimpton, and you're also going to learn from the housekeeper. And if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're going to make a mistake. When I'm on calls this morning, we had 7 people on the call, and I literally called one of my partners, and I was like, man, I like being the dumbest person in the room, because everybody.
I want to follow up on that point, because that really, look, all of us have an ego. It's hard to be in this business without having an ego.
Sure.
Bill had a huge ego, but he was able to keep it in check. But being the smartest person in the room as the leader of the company is really, really a failing, actually. Back to being an ambassador, I had meetings with 20 or 30 geniuses every day who were my country team. I was the dumbest person in the room without question, although I was the boss and the decision maker. And bringing that over to the hotel industry is exactly what you want to do. You need to have the judgment and you need to have the gut sense, but being the smartest person in the room is really a big mistake. I love having smarter people around me every day, and that's something I really focus on now. I didn't used to do that, but I'm really sold on that notion.
Yeah, I told this story on the show before, but Gordon, I'll tell you the story, because it really, as a hotel person, you'll understand. I was very insecure. I was running the Plaza Hotel when your old boss was my old boss, when he ran the Plaza, when he owned it. And I remember I was very insecure. I was very young. I had this big job, director of front office operations at the Plaza, and I terminated somebody, but I wasn't nice about it, apparently. And it was a manager, and I remember him coming over to me. He went downstairs, came up, gave all the stuff to security. And he's standing in the doorway. He looked me in the eye and he goes, I deserve to be fired. I'll give you that. I deserve to be fired. I'll give you that. But you took my spirit, and you're not allowed to do that. And he walked out. Changed my life. Absolutely changed the way I thought, because I could have the biggest ego in the room, and I can make a decision. I think I'm good at making decisions, but I need the smartest people in the room for them to basically get to the point where it's like, boss, this is the decision. And I'll look at it and go, yep, that makes sense. And if it doesn't, I have a big enough ego to challenge that. But that moment, that young man changed my life forever. And it made me realize the housekeeper and all the employees are 10 times more important. I always say, if God forbid I can't come to work, for 6 weeks, I get hit by a car, the hotel's going to run. If the housekeeper can't come to work, the hotel doesn't work.
Exactly. And, this job since 85 has been a real lesson to me in people skills. My people skills were never stellar. I would say at the beginning, they were probably the worst along the lines of what you experienced. I probably broke some spirits as well because of my own ambition and my own narcissism. Over time, I hope I've mellowed a little bit and I've recognized how important everyone's contribution is to this team. I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely getting better.
Yeah. Wow. And that's what you can do, right?
Yeah, that's an amazing thing to share with us. And I'm sure that people really appreciate that. Anthony, Kim wants to know, did you ever have a chance to speak to that employee ever since? You've always told that story, but we don't know if there's a follow-up.
If he looked me in the eye today, I wouldn't know what he looked like, because I can't remember, because he didn't work for me that long. And I don't, all I remember is the words. I'm a visual person. So everything, even your backdrop, Gordon, I love it. Right? I love it. I'm a visual person. I love flowers. I love paint. So I'm very visual. So that I can't remember his face tells you how his words impacted me. They overwhelm me. I mean, literally wouldn't have no idea what this man looks like. But his words, literally, if anybody thinks I'm a decent person or good boss or good team member, it's because of that person. That person changed my life forever, because you just said it. I was narcissistic. I was insecure. It was about me. If I wanted your opinion, I'd give it to you. And this is coming out of the military. I was in the Air Force for 5 years. So I came in and I was only a sergeant. I wasn't like an officer, but I was around officers that gave orders. So when I was in charge, I gave orders. But I didn't realize the dynamic. And so, like I said, it changed my life.
I like anyone who can quote Samuel Goldwyn. I think that's great. If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. That's great.
Absolutely. So speaking about being visual people, David, that's a little cue over there. Take a look real quick at Villa Royale. Really beautiful hotel over there. Tell us a little bit about it, Gordon.
Is that Palm Springs?
The Villa Royale, we entered into a wonderful collaboration with our partner, a company called Lightning Collective. And this is a guy from Portland who we did several bars with, both in hotel and freestanding.
Cool.
And he said, I want to move down to Palm Springs with my spouse and my family. Would you back me in a hotel deal? And I said, yes, I will, because I think we need a partner down there who can live, eat, and breathe this. When you have a hotel that's going to be, 30, 40, 50 rooms, you just can't afford to throw a full corporate load of expense onto it. So I said, my only criteria is, other than the cool factor, which he understands in spades, way more than I do, frankly, is I want a property that's sitting on fee simple land. I do not want to do a ground lease with anyone down there, because every time you build some value in the property, the ground owner takes it away from you in the form of increased rent or diminished term or whatever.
So Gordon, what we're trying to do is we're trying to teach young managers this business. So can you just tell people the difference between a ground lease and fee simple so they can understand it if they're new to this industry?
Sure. It's unusual in our business. There are lots of ground leases, but there are far more properties where when you own the building, you own the land under the building. In the case of Palm Springs, it's very unusual geography. There are many Native American tribes that have Native American reservation and other sovereign land that they own. They will never sell that land. And if you want to own a building that sits on their land, you have to pay them rent. And they give you a lease under your building for a period of time. And when the lease is up, you either have to renegotiate it and extend it, or you have to walk away and hand the building back to them. And as we know, real estate appreciates over time. It's an inflation hedge, but having to pay someone rent and never really owning your own destiny under your building can be in certain circumstances a negative to ownership. In the case of the Palm Springs market, it generally is. So I told our friend and partner, when you go looking for property, it's going to narrow the search considerably, but only look for things that are on fee land. And he found this wonderful example called the Villa Royale, which is an old historic hotel. It was owned by several Hollywood luminaries over the period of time, but it had fallen into significant disrepair. And so we were able to buy it at an attractive price. He spent a year literally working as a carpenter, as a laborer, and putting a crew together, and completely brought it back to life again. And it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, in that market, because I did a couple of shows there. I did the Curve, which is now, I think, the Delos Reese. I don't know if you know that hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did the Curve, and it was not a very good hotel. And that market is very much, it's a great market, but like you said, you got to grind it, you got to build it, you got to manage it. There's not a lot of opportunity because of the average rate. And no matter what you put in that market, the average rate, you can get a pop. But again, it is what it is. And we're kind of similar in a different market that I'm working in. But I love that market. There's something about those hotels because you can walk. I went in for a friend of mine for lunch. He happened to be shooting also in town. And we went to a little hotel. It was a little over a hill. It's very fancy. All the celebrities go there. And it was just like, I didn't expect it. And what I love about that area, every hotel you don't expect. Every one of them is so different.
Well, the Villa fits that bill completely. It's a lot of acreage for only 38 rooms. It has 3 swimming pools. It has just a really chill vibe. So people who are expecting a 5-star experience and normally would stay, for example, at a Four Seasons resort or at a Rosewood or something like that, would come to the Villa and be very happy there. And of course, they're paying a fraction of that rate. On the other hand, someone who's used to a 3-star experience would feel like they're treated as a king or a queen. So it really is a pretty ubiquitous product.
So tell everyone out there that's looking to buy a 38-room hotel and they don't have a lot of capital in a B market, what to do.
Get a lot of capital.
It's like I fed you the line.
I don't know. My wife just made me watch this movie recently called Falling in Love, and she seemed to got a great deal on it, this woman, and was able, with her own hands, with the help of a carpenter she didn't get along with but was really in love with, build up this hotel for basically nothing and create a successful business.
Yeah, and those kind of hotels, I mean, what Gordon does is a different level, but those kind of hotels, what I tell people every day, because that's kind of my brand, that's my business, is consulting on these small properties. You're going to get yourself a really good job. If you're successful, you're going to get yourself a really good job. You're never going to be able to replace yourself or your husband who fixes everything, because it's 20 rooms and you'll make a nice income, but you're giving yourself a job. And that's what these hotels, a lot of these hotels are. But it's fun as hell. I would never do it. I like 200-room hotels where I have managers to help me because I don't ever want to work that hard. I work really hard. I don't want to work as hard as running a 38-room hotel.
Yeah, but I'll tell you where it really helps is that hotel in a normal year, considering its size, will generate a tremendous amount of cash flow.
Yeah, sure.
Because of the rate. It also really helps anchor our brand, the Provenance brand, because we are intending to expand further into the leisure resort business. And it's sort of a prototype of what we want to be. We're casual, we're relaxed, but all of the service elements that guests come to expect are there. And they can achieve those service elements with different architecture, with different art, with different look and feel, but they're always going to know if they're staying at a Provenance hotel that they're going to have an incredible night's sleep, they're going to have a great shower, they're going to be able to do business, and the food is going to be spectacular, no matter what type of food it is.
Yeah, and I talk about, I'm sorry, Glenn.
I was going to say, now I really want to, I want to go there, but we got a question that's really based on what you're talking about. Your website mentions expansion into India. Any other pipeline projects you can share? What are you thinking about as you're trying to do this more resorty type business?
Well, we have several things in our pipeline. The next one to open will be in, believe it or not, Fort Wayne, Indiana, a property called the Bradley. And again, going back to our pillars of being handcrafted, of being an illuminator in every single aspect of what we do, we joint ventured this with a company based in Fort Wayne called Vera Bradley, which is a women's handbag design company.
I have three girls, I know it.
Public. And the founder of Vera Bradley, Barbara Backgard, was complaining that all that she had available in Fort Wayne to entertain her vendors, her customers, other executives that come in were some of the branded limited service box hotels.
Right.
So she reached out to us. We formed a venture. She got the city to participate in the form of a land contribution and some other contributions. Wow. And so we're going to have this very cool project opening this summer with a rooftop bar, some very cool rooms. Again, we curated the art that will go in there, and I don't want to be a spoiler alert right now. But when it opens, we'll launch that. And it's going to be, again, everyone says, Fort Wayne, what are you doing in Fort Wayne? Well, that's the beauty of Provenance. We can be in a market where the ADR is $800, or we can be in a market where the ADR is $150 or $200 and still make it work.
Yeah, and there's a secret there in a formula there that would take probably a good week for you to explain to everyone, from real estate to partnering, to the way you buy product, to the way you market, to the people you use, to the people on your team. It seems simple, but you've done it over a period of years, and you've done it with really smart people, and it's threading a needle as far as I'm concerned. What you do, it's threading a needle. And if you don't do it right every day, and you, like when you were talking about that hotel, you were talking about it, it was like it's the first and only project you'll ever do in your life. Like, it seems so important to you, just the way you spoke about it in that little 2 sentences. And that's this world. If you understand boutique hotels, you understand how to thread that needle, you'll be successful. But if not, you'll be crushed. And so many people try to come in this business and they don't understand the economics, and they don't understand the inspiration behind it and the creativity.
Well, you give up something when you do this. And what you give up is, the difference between building something by hand versus something that's stamped out in a factory. The factory can efficiently put out a lot more quantity than we can. So the odds of us opening 20 or 30 hotels a year are limited. The odds of us opening 3 to 5 really great hotels a year are pretty strong.
So how do you create an infrastructure that all these properties can be successful if they're in far-flung locations from each other outside your home base of Portland, where you have a bunch of properties?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. We're at a very interesting size right now. If we were any smaller, it would be easy. And if we're any larger, it would be easy. We're kind of going through that size and that volume where we have to jump to the next level, and we have to stretch every one of our colleagues to their limits to get us there, because, doing a build it and they will come when it comes to staffing is a sure way to go out of business. But on the other hand, you have to give your people a break as well. And right now, the thing that is our most valuable commodity is our team. We have an absolutely incredible team. They work 7 days a week. I want to say 24 hours a day, but I'm sure they sleep occasionally. And when we get to the next tranche, if you will, in the 20 to 25 hotel range, we're going to definitely need to expand our bandwidth very significantly in order to handle that. And then we'll have the next growing pain from there to the 30 to 40 hotel range.
I'm so glad you said that, because the people you're talking about, those superstars, I always say, I don't like good people, I like great people, because good people gave up on being great. So if you surround yourself with great people, you never have to tell them to slow down, and they will never say, boss, I need help. It is your ability and your instincts to know your team to say, we got to get a little more help. No, boss, we got it. We can handle it. Okay, we're going to get help anyway. But that kind of team you're talking about, that's the team that can lift that. And you as the leader have to look at it and go, team, we need help, because your team's rarely going to look at you and say, you know, throw me a life vest. They expect you to be there for them to do that. But I say it all the time. If you come on our team, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked, but you're going to be inspired at a level that you've never been inspired before. And people don't wake up in the morning for money. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody wakes up to be inspired and to work for people that they really like. And the money helps and the money's needed. But, you know, I can attract somebody for maybe $20,000 less that is inspired by a project than I can by giving a person another $100,000 that just wants the $100,000, and they're going to be worthless to me. And so what you're saying is like, you're speaking my language, and it's so hard to teach in this business, that kind of thinking, because everybody wants, what are you doing for me now? With that said, if you're a real hotelier, you're inspired and you love it.
I think what people want more than anything is they want growth opportunity.
Absolutely.
And that's really on us to provide that, which means that we have to have a really good reputation with our lenders. We have to have a good reputation in the industry as a great place to work so that we can grow. I was very excited, actually, when I left my job as the ambassador to come back to Provenance. And we had some great growth plans in place that were all, you know, dashed by COVID. As the old saying goes, man plans, God laughs.
Yeah.
and God laughed in March of 2020. So
go on, sorry.
No, so our strategy now is to make sure that our current portfolio, along with our third-party managed contracts, are well defended and well positioned to take advantage as we come out of these doldrums, but also to go back to a clear trajectory of growth. We seem to have a lot of interest with people who want to help capitalize us. We're fortunate that we have some resources on our balance sheet where we can join any capital partner in those investments, but that's really what we have to offer people as a growth opportunity.
So one of the things that we've been seeing over the last few weeks is the rising sense that opportunity is abounding absolutely everywhere. If you don't start to think about it now, 6 months from now, you're going to have a lot of big regrets. And we also believe that there's going to be a lot of huge winners reinventing things right now. How are you thinking about the future to leverage what you think is going to be happening in order to make those big moves now that you know will pay off 2, 3, 4 years from now?
Well, you know, the problem is our industry tends to be very lemming-like.
Yes.
And what I find fascinating is that prior to COVID, there was a pretty good sense of where the market was in terms of hotel values, depending on which city you were in, depending on whether the property was encumbered or unencumbered. And there was a big spread between the bid and the ask. And only those deals where there was some impetus to come together did a transaction occur. And if you had asked any buyer on any of those assets, if the seller came down 5%, 10%, 15% at the worst, would you transact? The instant answer would have been yes. Enter COVID. Now everyone is rubbing their hands together thinking they're going to get everything at 40 or 50 or 60% off because of the distress, at half of replacement cost, at a pre-COVID cap rate of 12 or 13. And the only way I can describe this phenomenon is people are just getting too greedy. And that's why no deals have happened.
Right.
So when you look at what's actually transacted, a 10% or 15% off, which would have seemed like a hell of a deal pre-COVID, people are turning their nose down. And as a result, there are billions and billions of dollars sitting on the sideline getting no return because people won't just make a fair deal. I'm starting to see that slowly begin to turn now. But there were so many opportunities in the last year to do a fair deal with a seller who was in distress without trying to crush them, that I think there are going to be a lot of regrets where someone could have bought something at 75 or 80 cents on the dollar, but they were trying to buy it at 40 or 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah,
Right.
it's interesting. We're looking at a deal right now that we have to make a decision on in the next couple of days to bring to our equity partner. And I said, listen, I can wait till this person gets crushed, and they're about to get crushed, or I can give them a fair deal and be a good person.
Right.
And because we know the return on this investment is going to be a really good return. And when you're waiting for somebody to get crushed, one of two things happen. They get crushed and you pick up the bones, or they don't get crushed, or somebody else comes and gets it. So I always think, be fair to people, be respectful of people, because it always comes around. And you, Gordon, you know better than anybody. This industry is that big. So it's always, if you do a deal today and crush somebody, someone else is going to hear about it. And that person's going to be sitting on the other side of the table one day and going to try to crush you. I remember I was interviewing somebody for assistant general manager job when I was general manager. And years later, I walked in, he was the vice president of this company, and I was looking for a GM job in New York City. And he goes, "You remember me?" And I go, "No." He goes, "You interviewed me." And I remember panicking, going, "Was I nice to you?" He goes, "You didn't like my hair." I go, "What do you mean? You have beautiful hair." He goes, "Yeah, I can't hire you because you have beautiful hair. And you and I got along really well." I said, "Oh yeah, I remember you." And so the guy that I was looking to be assistant general manager years later became vice president of a small boutique company that was looking to give me a job. So, you learn a lot from those moments. You always have to take care of people in this industry because it is that small.
So speaking of taking care of people, Gordon, I'm sure you want to start to get some of your employees back to work now. You mentioned earlier on how you had to let 1,200 off, but one of the stories we're seeing develop is that not that many people are in the market to come back. So what is your employment situation right now? Are you finding there's a gap between the employees you need currently and the jobs that you have available?
Good question.
We're experiencing some of that, although we have some incredibly loyal folks who have been waiting patiently to come back. The new round of unemployment benefits did not help in terms of people evaluating whether they're better off collecting unemployment and sitting at home or coming back to work at perhaps a wage that on an after-tax basis is not very far off. But again, we have to be able to, make money. We want to pay people well, but we can only pay so well, especially as rates are beginning to climb again from a very low level. So it is a challenge. The good news is we've been around for a while. We have good contacts, and we're working those contacts, but it's not easy.
And what is the unemployment now? The new stimulus is 300 extra. Glenn, do you know?
I don't know offhand. I just know that
I think it's 300. It's still the extra 300, right? It's unemployment plus 300.
It's about 600 a week.
Still?
Yeah.
No, it's unemployment plus the 300, which is 600.
Well, including state benefits, it's about 600 a week.
Yeah. And
it's 2,400 a month, which, a lot of people are making the calculus. Would I rather stay home or go to work?
Yeah, but the good news, bad news is, unless you're in a situation where children are at play and you have a better quality of life because you can't, it's easier for you to stay home because your children are working from home. The good news is the good people are going to be out there looking for jobs. My daughter literally would not take one penny from unemployment. She graduated college. She had basically a full-time job. And she literally, I said, "Babe, you can get unemployment. There's no jobs." She goes, "I'm not taking it." She goes, when everything, and she's in a position where she doesn't have to. She got me. But the point being is she can still get unemployment. She's working. She's working, she's working in a coffee house until, theater opens and things like that happen. But she is, she wouldn't do it. And so those are the kind of people, that you'll hopefully find and you'll bring in, but you're going to have to do more. If you want to get promoted quickly, if you want to show value to the owner, now is the greatest opportunity in the world to get in the hotel business. But you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to show what you're capable of, and you're going to be able to go up the corporate ladder like that if you're smart.
The other thing I think is incumbent on our industry is to be at the tip of the iceberg or the tip of the spear in encouraging people to go back into the office, to get back on airplanes and begin to exercise their business travel skills again. Yep. Because if we're not doing it, we're so dependent on that as an industry. If our own people aren't doing it, how do we expect our guests to do it?
Yep, and that's something that we preach here every day on No Vacancy Live, Gordon. In fact,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've got a trip coming up on the 24th for a couple of days, and I'm very happy about that, to get on an airplane and do my part. I just hope that we can have more. I'm going to be attending the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference in person May 10th through 12th. And I hope that everybody is able to join us at that. Anthony?
I'm going down to look at something in Florida in, I think, a week or two. But and we've been traveling, and we talk about it to nauseam on this show that we need to get out there. Business travelers need to travel to keep our business going. But Gordon, how do you offset that with your expenses? Because you saw that your team still was able to do great things from home, and you have an expense that's attributed to that travel. So how do you offset that? Because there is economics behind it.
See, I don't buy into the premise that people can do great things at home. I think working out of the home is a Band-Aid and is a temporary solution. But this is really a people business. And I'm the biggest proponent of face-to-face meetings. As I mentioned at the beginning of your show, I never stopped traveling since March of 20. I've literally been on an airplane almost every week.
Amazing.
Because I know that if I want to get someone to do something that I want them to do, I have to sit across the table from them. Now, in some cases, people just simply refuse to take a meeting, and I was forced to do it via Zoom or another medium. But in many, many cases, it was sort of a chicken and egg thing. People say, "You're really willing to sit down?" I said, "Of course I'm willing to sit down." I said, "Do you have COVID?" "No, I don't have COVID." "Great, then let's sit down and meet." And it's really proven that Zoom is a great technology, but it is not a replacement for person-to-person contact. It really isn't.
Yeah, I'm going through that now. It's like we need a meeting. We need to be together. When we were together last week in California, it was one of the greatest days of my career, simply because we were all coming together for the first time. And it was just like, it was so much fun, and it was so creative. And we're on Zoom every day, but you're right. It doesn't have the same effect.
It's a difference. When you're with people, it connects you with them emotionally and spiritually behind whatever project you're working on. It's so essential, be it a conference, be it a deal, whatever it might be.
But
Gordon,
the difference is, Glenn, I can't put my pointer up your nose and you don't know about it. So I'm doing right now.
Sorry, you have to miss out on that. We're hitting 1 o'clock already, or 10 o'clock by you, Gordon. I know that this hour went by super fast, and I feel like we could continue on and on and on. But how about a couple of final thoughts? What is on top of your mind that you want to get out to the folks that are learning and listening today?
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I want to, on behalf of our organization, Provenance, we're here. We've been here. We're going to be here. And we're growing. We'd love to collaborate with any or all of you out there on your projects. We have an amazing team, an amazing work ethic, and we're always happy. We're very, very flat. Everyone talks to everyone else. We try to keep our hierarchy down to a dull roar. So if you need some advice, you need some help, you want to collaborate, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you.
Beautiful. I love it. Anthony, this is the time of the show where you tell our guests that we have to come out to their hotels and do some stuff with them.
Yes, we do. We have to come out. But before you do that, as a person that is well known in the industry, but not well known in the national and worldwide public, when was the first time you were noticed for being an ambassador? And what was that? Hopefully it was a good experience. And what was that like?
In Europe, it became almost instantaneous because I was in the European media almost from day one. Again, it's not about me, Gordon Sondland. It's about the United States of America. And Brussels is full of ambassadors, but the U.S. ambassador, whoever that is, my predecessor and my successor, are noticed because the United States still is the most important country in the world. And I say that without hubris. I say it because it's a fact. Once I became known in Europe, I still to this day will walk down the street in any city and people will look up and they may not even know who I am, but I look familiar and they'll nod and smile. And I can tell that it's not because I'm CEO of Provenance Hotels that they're nodding at me.
You're an ambassador of the European Union, or you played nosy neighbor on that sitcom that they watch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's interesting? I had, when I went from a hotel guy to being a TV guy, I was in Honduras. We were doing some kinds of shows, and I got lost in my little puddle jump. I got off the wrong stop, And I get out. No, it was Belize. I get out, and a cab driver noticed me, comes over to me, crying, loving me, hugging me. I love your show. You taught me everything about service. I go, can you get me out of here? And he goes, yeah, I'll drive you. And he drove me. So everywhere I go now, I truly feel like the world is a small town. You must feel the same thing.
I do.
Wow. How interesting. Gordon Sondland, thank you so much. This has been an absolutely incredible experience talking to
Gentlemen, thank you. It's really been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
It was an honor.
Yeah, we definitely have to come and broadcast from some of your hotels at some point.
You're invited. Please do.
I'll talk to your team about that. Thanks again. Wow. That was so freaking cool.
You did the Irish goodbye again. Like,
I know. Sorry, hold on. Let me bring him back in. Sorry, I cut you off there, sir.
Oh, no, I just said goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. All right. So not much else to say.
What a gentleman. And like, you see people in media, and especially politicians and ambassadors, and everyone's got an opinion. And then you meet someone like that, and you're like, he is just a real open, transparent person. I mean, how many people in his position of leadership would say, you know, I have a big ego and I was narcissistic and I'm better because of my team. And I've learned how to listen. I've learned how to be a better leader, manager, and owner, developer. I mean, how many people say that? I mean, at his level, not too many.
Nope. Wow. What great human interview that was. You know, when we have some of these guests on, you never know what direction they're going to go. This one in such an exciting.
And look at us, man. You go from the chief marketing officer, Margaritaville, who's a superstar, and then you go to a former ambassador that happens to own a great boutique hotel company. And every day it's different. It's like people, especially our fans that come every single day, it's like you really don't know. You can't miss, because this is not a plug, but you can't miss. And that's why we're in the 0.5% of the
top 0.5% of all podcasts in the world.
Say it. I can never say it. Say it.
Top 0.5% of all the podcasts in the world. Both our channels, as a matter of fact. So if we can figure out how to combine the channels without losing any viewers or listeners, we'll be in even better shape.
Well, it was an honor to do that interview. And again, you know, am I a bad partner? Because I just sometimes just go.
So let's talk about what happened today. I wanted to say more, obviously, because I like to participate, but it would be like if I took my 3-year-old son who was in the candy store and I pulled him out there without giving him any treats. It would be really sad. Right? So you were having the greatest time getting your hotel geek on. I just love being able to stand back and watch.
But you know what? But that says a lot, because you have an ego, because we all have an ego. But it says a lot that you can do that you can like let me play when you see me having so much fun. And, you know, and when you get off on your geek and all your, not political, but all your, like you're good corporate structured kind of questions that get really to the heart of the business. I love watching that too. So thank you.
Don't worry. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to be worried all about my ego, because we've got Sean Worker on, who is the writer of the Adapters, the project that I helped participate.
Dude, you spelled your name wrong, bro.
What?
I'm just going to say Anthony is such a great guy that when Glenn was ready to geek out with Scott Sabella, that you even took the day off, Anthony. So you really are a top-notch guy.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Thank you there, buddy. So let me see the cover of your book again.
All right, let's look at that.
Open it up. Can you say like open it up to like a section that I said something and see if I said anything interesting?
I don't know where to find you by just flipping through this. But
don't you have a table of contact? No.
The way that the book is structured is that all of the interviews are put throughout the entire book, and you've got a couple of pages in here that highlight you as well.
How many pages in the book?
It is 300 plus.
Look at page 126.
All right, 126. It's a scribble zone.
Wouldn't it be great if you're like, oh, there you are?
Let's get out of here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Download our audio version. You know, we're in the top 0.5%, checking in with Anthony and Glenn. No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman. Watch this show every single day. But most important, remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.